Hi everyone, it's Chenso from RealityArtPod, here to rank the players from Big Brother 27 based on how I feel they're doing in the game as of the end of Week 5's Thursday night eviction episode. Before I dive in, I put a link to my BB27 playlist in the description for all my recaps and rankings. If you like the content, consider liking and subscribing. You can also use my link to try Paramount Plus for free. This week saw HOH Ava nominating Keanu, Vince, and Zach, Catherine winning and not using the veto, Zach not using his power, a Keanu blockbuster win, and an 8-2 Zach eviction. Firstly, we lost Zach here, who I originally ranked ninth preseason, but he worked his way up my rankings. I even put him number 1 last week, feeling like he had it all. 3 women in the house with crushes on him, a power that made him safe in a situation just like this, exactly this. As the week went on, I started to feel like he wasn't going to use it. Firstly, he throws a fit after he's nominated, and is such a diva about that. I thought he was testing the other players with his behavior. Then he campaigns for votes all week long, and doesn't warn his allies ahead of the meeting, so it wasn't shocking to me that he didn't use it, but this goes down as an all-time mistake, and in my opinion, an all-time fall from grace for a potential winner of a season, going from such a good spot to being voted out. Had he stayed, he would have still been in a good spot in the game, but that's what we always say. He would have won if he hadn't lost. But let's get to these rankings. So many surprising things happened this week that rendered last week's takes aging poorly. I'm putting Keanu back in 12th. Last week he was 10th. He comes into this week on the up and up. He was building his relationships, and this week, while he continued to have bad delusional takes, he did bond with other players and starts to become a valuable number for both sides. His butler costume was hilarious. It also seemed to help him to bond with the other players. But while he was on the up and up, he went back on the down and down. I think he genuinely would have considered using the veto on Vince had he won it, as he still thinks he's running the game, and he's wasting Rachel's time. She had to sit him down today to convince him not to throw the blockbuster to Vince. So I can't put him as not last. He has let me down. I root for him at this point in a very jokey way. With all that said, I would live for a Keanu HOH at this time for the mess alone. In 11th, I have Kelly, who last week was 12th. She survives that vote last week and then fades right into the background. Gone was shit stirring Kelly. Now we have pleasant Kelly, who giggles around the house here and there. She was so much in the background that the Sunday show didn't even care that she existed, or that Ava was giving Kelly a break from being on the block for the first time. I said last week I wanted Kelly to see the opportunity to work with the grouping of Ava, Will, Rachel, Ashley, and when Ava kept her safe, I thought that was going to happen. But I don't feel like Kelly did anything positive to capitalize on those relationships, and she didn't do anything to further her game during this week of safety, but she didn't do much negative either. I'm just not in the mood to reward this level of inactivity. In 10th, I have Rachel, who last week was 7th. I feel like it was no big deal that Rachel voted to keep Jimmy. Nobody seemed to care, so I don't care. But lately, Rachel's been obsessing over what she heard about people wanting her to go to jury. She should have just let them think that, but instead she raised so much hell about this, and now the people who are saying that don't even want her in jury anymore. She has a group, but they're not very organized, nor have they declared it an alliance. And is Mickey in her group? She and Mickey have mutual friends, but Mickey wants Rachel out. It's such a mess. Rachel's in extremely high risk of being nominated, and if I had to pick one person that's most likely to be evicted after all of this, it's Rachel. She needs to win a competition this week, especially because campaigning for votes is one of Rachel's biggest weaknesses. As we've seen on her seasons, on Traitors, and on this season as well, she's just not good at getting her way. So if she's on the block, I fear she's outie, unless the players have one of their classic judgment lapses. In 9th, moving on to another person that is a likely target this week, in Morgan. Last week I had Morgan at 4th. I'm fascinated by the way Morgan and Mickey were so close all last week. Then this week they go back to having a dissolving relationship and beefing with each other, with Mickey actually being the reason Morgan was the target. Vince and Zach being nominated sent Morgan into a tailspin. She was so dead set on both of them staying, and campaigns throughout the week to get Keanu out. She was so focused on them, she didn't address the fact that she was the replacement nominee and would have been the target coming into this vote, though I do think she could have won that blockbuster. She has so much potential as a player, but gets in her own way time and time again. Morgan is like Vanessa if Vanessa was constantly forcing herself to cry and never got her way. In 8th, I'm putting Catherine, who last week was 13th. Last week, I felt all Catherine had going for her was this relationship with Riley, and I felt she had the least going on out of everyone. But soon after the eviction, Catherine has an epiphany, realizing what I wanted her to realize. She gets upset and grumpy with Riley, telling him she was annoyed that she's only seen as playing his game. Exactly, Catherine. Exactly. She goes on to win the veto, which was great because it gave her a morale boost and forced her to actually talk game with people, briefly, but she doesn't use the veto to impact the game at all. And while having some conversations was the bare minimum that I needed to see from her to put her back above the players who are consistently making mistakes, she did revert back to hanging out with Riley all day. With that said, she still has her personal relationship with Lauren that I think will get closer now that Zach's gone, and she and Riley are being included in a lot of people's plans for the short term, though she's playing for second place at best right now, and I'm only putting her higher than some of these other players because, like I said, she's not being as much discussed as immediate target, but but she's on a few people's list of players they don't want on the Precious jury. In 7th, I have Ashley, who last week was 11th. Last week, I felt the vote mix-up was going to be so bad for her, and I'm happy that she lied about it. Add on to that her trust with Will was tested, and he kept her secret, helping her to cover it up. Ava wins HOH, and at first wants to nominate Ashley. She was talked out of it by Mickey. I wonder if Mickey would have come so much to Ashley's aid had she known the truth about the vote. Ashley continues to have strong reads in the game, and while this was one of her better weeks, she keeps making Mickey mad left and right. A lot of it's not her fault. Mickey just gets annoyed with her, but I feel like Ashley did a great job appeasing Mickey throughout the week, building her strong bond stronger. She voted correctly, and she has Mickey clocked in the game. It really feels like Ashley could be Mickey's undoing after calling her a dictator, though I could see Ashley being on the block with Rachel and evicted if Rachel saves herself. In 6th, I have Mickey, who last week was 8th, coming out of that horrible HOH where she evicted her own friend. I didn't place her lower because she still had other friends and wasn't an immediate target. Ava winning kept her safe, even though I didn't know they were that close. Mickey could have regrouped this week and worked on some bonds, but I feel like she's always in some drama that she's creating, consistently pulling other players to reprimand them for doing anything that she doesn't like them doing. It seems like she's just a control freak and can't accept that other people have their own agendas. She gets so annoyed when other people play messy, but she plays messy herself, and the others notice. With that said, she is a strong player. She knows what she wants and how to get it, and works efficiently to get it done. And she's very aware of the house dynamics. Similarly to Riley, it's going to take a lot of guts to nominate Mickey. She's going to give whoever puts her on the block a really hard time in the game if she stays. So even though she plays messy, there is deterrent that allows her to continue to play messy. In 5th, I have Lauren, who last week was 2nd. I said then, and I still hold, that she doesn't have to do much. Since she's in a great spot to survive for a while, she maintains having the least blood on her hands of anyone who's won HOH, but losing Zach is awful for Lauren's game. One of her shields, someone who was going to carry her in the game, now she's in a spot where she could be nominated with her group in his place. While I can knock her for the end result of the week, she did have good conversations with Kat and Riley, she still has the final 2 with Vince, and she was more decisive than ever in this vote, having decided what she was going to do days ahead of the eviction, which was a nice surprise. In 4th, I have Will, last week 9th. He starts this week covering up for Ashley's vote. I liked this. He's been a bit wishy-washy about Ashley in the past, so to see him stand by her was some good loyalty to someone who's very important to his game. Will's doing what he needs to be doing. He stays social, builds bonds with both sides of the house. I can't see him going anywhere anytime soon. These eviction results have been going very well for him, where so many young athletic guys are going home early. It makes it more likely for him to be able to win challenges when he needs it. So I feel like he's on the up and up. I like what he's doing, but he hasn't been in control of much, and remains on the side of the house that's less likely to win challenges and be consistently in power. In 3rd, I have Ava, who was 6th last week. I'm on the fence about this week for her. Last week, I said I wanted to see a clear vision for her strategy, and I bumped her up in this list because she did exactly what I wanted her to. She wins HOH, made a clear-cut game move, nominating Vince and Zach. We get an idea of Ava's plan. It's clearly to bring Will, Ashley, Rachel, and Mickey along with her, which is a good endgame lineup for her, so I see the vision. I don't get why she told Zach that he was fine, and then just let him think he was fine until he was blindsided. That made her look a bit bad in general. And then being a bit of a shut-in in HOH, saying she didn't want one-on-ones, which made it very obvious to anyone she's not working with that she's not with them. Any HOH should have one-on-ones with everybody. She has the mentality of, I'll make these nominations, and if they win HOH, next week I'll just go on the block, whoopsie-doopsie. But instead of just accepting that, she could have tried to clean that up, both before and after the nominations were made, but she didn't. So I love the big move. I think it'll help her winning chances, but she pissed off a lot of people this week. Not really personally, but strategically. She poked the bear with a lot of players, and she may end up going on the block multiple times because of this. Getting to 2nd, I have Vince, who last week was 5th. Vince has spent the first 4 weeks either being HOH or being in the HOH's ear. Then someone he doesn't have influence over wins power, and he crumbles under the pressure, moping and whining, which as a viewer is very annoying. But whatever he's doing is working on the other players. There was consistent, solid support for him in this vote. Even when Rachel tried to turn the target on him, there was just too much support from the other players. He was also able to win Keanu over big time, getting Keanu to a point where he was ready to lay down his own life for him. He could still be a target soon. He was on the block, but he's got Morgan and Lauren, Keanu, Kat and Riley like him. He has a lot more organized of a group than the other side, and they're more likely to win competitions. So I feel like he has a lot at his disposal to get back to a competitive standing. In 1st for the week is Riley, who last week was 3rd. We learned in the last few weeks that the other players are terrified of Riley and of pissing him off. Through that, Riley's found himself in the middle of 2 groups who both want and need his help to progress themselves. On one hand, he's in tune with the game and very decisive in his voting, but on the other hand, he is way too obsessed with Catherine and all over her all day long. So the fact that he's who I feel like is playing the best game is an indictment on the whole season. While I personally hope Catherine outlasts him in the game, I kind of want to see the mess that ensues when the other players do mess with her or even evict her. I have him as number 1 because he's a powerful player. While Mickey felt like she was in control this week, it seemed to me like whatever Riley wanted to happen was going to happen. The way I see it right now, there are 2 sides of the house going at it, and Riley is the leader of this chunk of votes in the middle with Kat and Kelly that ultimately can decide who goes home in the next few weeks. So those are my rankings for week 5. These people are all over the place, so hopefully this video makes sense. You probably disagree with me. Let me know in the comments what your rankings are. I read and respond to every single comment. If you like this video, consider liking and subscribing. I'll be back next week with more recaps and rankings. Until next time, you know where to find me. Bye.